Hello, welcome back to Fred in his Shed. We're back up in the Radio Shack, and I hope you're all well out there while making this video, because there's been a few nasty bugs and colds going about in the UK. It's winter, obviously, and that's when you get all these nasty lurgy chest infections and colds, and everyone seems to be going down with it. So I hope you're all well watching this video. I've got a little bit of time this afternoon. I'm waiting for the 305 CB net to come on sideband, and I thought, well, maybe I'll answer a few questions that have been coming up recently on the channel. And I've had a lot of questions about these two very affordable little shortwave receivers from Xhdata, which we reviewed these a few weeks ago now. And a few of you have been interested in these, mainly I think because they are so cheap, really. And particularly the 219 and the 328. And you've sort of said, Fred, you know, what's the best radio? There's not a lot in it in price. What would you choose? So I thought I'd bring them out, and we'll do some comparison. We'll try and do some basic on-air comparison, and I'll tell you the sort of good points, bad points, and then I'll give you an idea what I would choose if I was spending my money. Also, something else that come up in the comments, some guy, very sharp comment. I tend not to really worry about these comments these days. Unfortunately, you do get people that can be a little bit sharp sometimes in the comments. But his comment was about the DSP, how the radios work, and he sort of said, "Oh, Fred, you don't know what you're talking about. These aren't DSP radios. You won't get DSP at that price. They're going to be analog. You don't know what even DSP means," or words to that effect. And I have been doing this a while now. I do know what DSP means. It's digital signal processing, and these are DSP radios. Things changed probably, I don't know, 7-8 years ago. Earlier radios were the old-fashioned analog tuning capacitor, and if you took them apart, you would have your tuning sort of VFO or tuning dial here, a piece of cord, and then you'd have the VFO maybe over here, or sometimes they were straight on the board. I don't know if DSP is a good thing or a bad thing. DSP tends to boost the signal of the station that you're trying to tune to. It's like an AGC, an automatic gain control. It instantly boosts the signal, and that can be good if you're trying to, we'll say, tune into a weak station. But on the same note, it can also be bad if you get two stations very close together, and this sometimes happens on shortwave, and you're trying to split them. And if you want to hear the weaker one, the DSP will always prioritise the stronger radio station, especially if the bandwidth is slightly wider, and it wipes out your weaker station. So I suppose that's selectability, isn't it? That maybe it's not so selective than the old-fashioned analog tuner where you was able to really sort of split the difference. It's just the way they are, and they are all DSP now. It's that's just the cheapest way that they can produce them. Now, although these radios are affordable, it doesn't mean they are poor radios. Some misconceptions came on the video as well, where people instantly reject a radio because it's £10 delivered, which in this one, or £13 delivered, and they think, oh, well, it can't be any good for that price. How can they make it for that price? And they may have had radios in the past that they've bought and they've been very disappointed with. Hence, so have I, and I've got a couple here. Let me bring these out. These were your typical Chinese little radios that were being produced, I suppose, 5-6 years ago. Let me get this one out of the box. And they were very hit and miss, and I did a whole lot of series of reviews on these. There's this little radio there. They look quite nice as it falls over. Doesn't even stand up properly, but they look quite nice. But these were very hit and miss in terms of quality and how they receive. Sometimes they just didn't work at all, or if they did work, yeah, you really had to work these radios. I don't know if these are DSP tuning. I honestly don't know. I'm not going to take them apart. Now, what I'm going to say is that, see, that doesn't even want to stand up, that one. What I'm going to say is the quality you get for the money has improved substantially over the last 5 or 6 years. You cannot really compare the quality of these radios, how they tune, what they sound like compared to these radios. So if you haven't invested in a cheap radio recently, in the last 5-6 years, then you really need to, because you will be quite surprised. Let's clear the bench and we can have a look at these in more detail. Both of these radios have 12 bands. They have 2 FM bands. They have the lower FM band, which drops all the way down to 64 megahertz, which is quite good for DXing on FM. They have medium wave and they have 9 shortwave bands. The cheaper one only claims to be I think it's an 11 band radio. In fact, it's 12. It's underselling itself. Main difference, before you even get started on the quality and how they sound, the main difference is the batteries. The cheaper 219 works on 2 AA cells, standard sort of batteries, whereas this one, the 328, has the BL5C, which is the Nokia battery. So it depends, you know, what you're going to use the radio for. If you're going to sort of take it away camping or something for a couple of weeks or whatever, you might be better off with the AA's. I don't know if they'll last any longer, but if they do run out of charge, you can simply and easily replace them. On the other hand, if you're just going to have this, maybe take it to work or something, so if it gets nicked, it doesn't really matter. Again, you can have the rechargeable battery. It's probably more convenient, and in the long term it will be cheaper than shelling out on AA's. But I mean, AA's in this radio will last forever. Interesting size comparison. I didn't realise this when I've done the reviews, but the cheaper radio is in fact just that little bit bigger. There's not much in it, only a few millimetres here or there, but it is a bigger radio. Another thing that you might want to consider is that the 328 has a TF card slot and is an MP3 player. I don't think it's Bluetooth. I don't think it was. And obviously you've got the USB-C there in the top to charge the battery. Now both of these radios have a headphone socket. Yeah, a lot of you have come back and said they're only mono on FM. They're not stereo. And I didn't really notice, to be honest, when I tested it. I connected it to the camera. It might be an issue. It's a shame, really, if they're not. You're probably right. They probably are just mono. I tend to use them more on medium wave and on shortwave. When it comes down to the antennas, I think they're pretty much identical. They've both got decent quality antennas. Sometimes the antennas are really poor on cheap radios, but these ones, yeah, they're probably getting on for 50 centimetres long. Nice and firm, don't all flop about. Even on the very cheapest one, it's pretty much exactly the same antenna. So yeah, there's absolutely no complaints there. The cheaper one also has a DC input for a 5 volt, but it's a centre pin plug type. It's not a USB. So again, that's a little bit odd. If that had a USB, that would be better, because you could maybe just run it from a USB supply if your batteries did run down. But I mean, there's really not a lot to choose with the overall design. They've got the same switch on the bottom there to do the 9 bands, and it is a little bit, well, it is a bit cheap feeling, to be honest, on both radios. If anything, the cheaper radio might be a little bit better, because it's a slightly larger switch and it feels a little bit firmer. This one's a bit loose. Can't say wobbly. People get a bit funny about that. But it is a cheap radio. Now, the speaker wise, now this is interesting. I imagine, without taking these radios apart, which I'm not going to do because I'd never get them back. I probably wouldn't get them back together again. But the speaker looks to be about the same size. However, they've definitely done something with the D-328, because when you have the radio switched on, the speaker really resonates on this radio. It's almost like it's got a little reflex port, which I don't think it has. No, but it definitely sounds better. So although they're the same size, without taking it apart, but I would say that I think the 328 has got a better quality speaker. It seems to sort of move about inside the radio better and creates a bit more resonance. Not saying that the 219 is not clear, but sounds more like a pocket transistor radio, which is what it is. This one's a little bit better. It's going to be hard to demonstrate that. I'm not going to plug it directly into the camera, but let's switch the radios on and have a listen. Okay, start off with the 219. I need to watch copyright strikes here. Now, the first thing is the tuning itself. And there's a lot of resistance on the tuning wheel. I'm not saying it's stiff, but there is a lot of resistance. I think that's built in to help you when you tune on shortwave, but it does make it a little bit harder to tune, in my opinion. Now, I've got the antenna up in the shack. It's not the best place to tune a radio, but with that DSP, it is a little bit snatchy.
Yeah. But as you can hear, he's much more hawkish. You can also probably hear the...
So sometimes you have to go past the station and then go back.
Get hold of more money and pressurising his brother, which...
But it sounds clear.
Rupert is much more,
But yeah, it does sound like a transistor radio. Now, the 328, obviously very similar, but the tuning is just that bit smoother, and there's less resistance there. There's no sort of slack in the tuning, but it just means that you can use less pressure on your finger, and it makes it, in my opinion, much more enjoyable to tune. Let's see if we can get some stations.
Dying at 54.9%. Feeling lost and feeling trapped were also over 50%. Other main nightmares.
And that speaker, it's probably not coming across on the camera, but that speaker, you can feel the resonance when you hold the radio, and it just sounds that little bit deeper.
They've had frightening dreams about performing badly at certain activities, such as a big exam. But the top 5 most common nightmares: at 5 is being trapped, at 4 is being lost, at 3...
At 2, making YouTube videos.
And the number 1...
That's very true, Vicky. Initial thoughts on that one?
It was very confident. It felt a lot more laid back. There was a bit of a vibe of, I've got this, I don't need to try too hard.
Yep. Oh, okay.
And that totally worked on you, didn't it, Vix?
I mean, it definitely had an effect. I'm definitely thinking of it.
See if I can get the same station on both radios, and we might be able to hear the difference.
Okay. But, Vicky, you should be so proud of yourself. You and I, we should be
the 328.
so grateful. I have gone for just
turn
one
up.
of the most iconic songs ever. It's Lady Marmalade. Come on.
Sisters. Let me hear.
You're welcome.
Flow, sisters.
Hey, sister, go, sister, soul, sister, flip.
I'm going to be careful of copyright again. It just sounds like a slightly better clarity. It just goes that little bit deeper, especially when you play music. And obviously I can't play you any music, unfortunately. Sounds like a pocket transistor radio. This one's just got that extra bit. It's just got that bit more bass and resonance. So yeah, basically I think this has got a different speaker. I think this has got a better speaker. Now when we move on to AM, the first thing that strikes me, and this is why I'm saying that the quality of these radios is higher than you think. In the shack here, I've got quite a lot of lights going on around me. I've got a LED light above me, which puts out a lot of RF interference. Cheaper radios, and some radios more expensive than these. I'm not going to shame the manufacturer. That picks up the buzzing on the light fitting, but these ones, they don't. Let me just demonstrate.
Scoring plenty of goals on the build-up to the tournament, and in the tournament it all deserts it.
Absolutely clear.
One of the very, very few Brazil centre-forwards not to score a goal in a World Cup, in an attacking side. And it's an absolute trauma for him. To this day, it's a trauma for him. I think with Brazil he scored 1 goal in 5.5 years, and that was in the stoppage time of a friendly to South Korea that they were winning 5-1. And this has always, it's been a question subsequently. You know, he looked like he was going to be the man. He was a solution to the centre-forward problem. And
I'm going to say on AM, there's very little that separates them, really. This one
really shook his self-belief. And you wondered when he first joined Arsenal.
Again, it's slightly less bass. Which ain't a bad thing, actually, on AM.
Yes, you wondered if they found the formula. Injuries haven't helped. But still, I know Arsenal fans who, even by the end of his first season at the club, were saying, you know what, he doesn't do it for us in the big games. So it's.
I think the 328 just sounds that little bit richer in the tone of the voice, but there's not much wrong with the 219 on medium wave. And as I say, they are quite directional. Of course, you've got the ferrite rod in internal antenna, but they're really good performers on medium wave.
I think you still bring in the tax revenue, means that we can invest sustainably.
With the Prime Minister, is it Blair, Brown, Cameron Osborne, Truss, Kwarteng, Johnson, Sunak?
It's Rachel Keir.
Yeah, I mean, there's no complaints at all on medium wave. And like I say, they do perform better than some other makes. Now, when it comes down to shortwave, yeah, obviously these are a budget radio. You're going to pick up the main commercial stations, sort of like Radio China. None of them have got an external antenna socket, so you can't put an external antenna. You can clip on a wire to the antenna itself. I found when I've been testing these cheaper DSP radios is they do overload quite easy when you clip on a long wire. I'm not in a very good area because I'm close to an AM broadcast station, and they all suffer from a degree of a sort of AM cross modulation. If you're out in the sticks and you're completely quiet noise wise, no QRM or anything like that, then it might work really, really well. But yeah, I'll see if I can get any shortwave on these. It's, what is it, about getting on for 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm up in the shack. But let's just say that they perform okay on shortwave. You know, you hear stations, but obviously if you're seriously into shortwave, let me just, yeah, you want to be maybe looking at something like this, which is obviously a lot more money, but it's still £65, something like that. But the 808 is probably the one you want to look at, and it's got sideband on it and everything. But these do give you a taste of shortwave for very little money. Let's see if I can tune into a station. Right, I've switched the shack lights off to cut out interference. So we're on shortwave here, and we got, I think this is Radio China coming in around about 13 megahertz. And I want to sort of demonstrate really the selectivity of the radio. The 328 rejects sort of spurious signals and bleed over a lot easier than the 219. I've got the 328 switched off so it doesn't interfere with the other radio. So let's have a listen to the 219. Now, when my hands are close to it, you get a lot of interference. Hands away.
Definitely, and also car makers need to develop in technology to get on board. Well,
My hands are.
The labour party together, and we'll find out if that's got a totally good. Good. On holiday we have realised the first centenary goal of building a moderately prosperous society in all respects.
So it really makes you work hard because, I say, when you touch the radio, it brings in a lot of spurious interference. Compare that to the 328 on the same channel here, and you don't get any of that.
To the world.
Just tune into Radio China again.
Parenting, from lawn mowing
Some approaches to raising children often give parenting a bad name. In contrast, lighthouse parenting shines a positive light on what effective parenting could truly look like. So, what exactly constitutes lighthouse?
So you can bring your hands in,
And have you noticed
and
new feature
it doesn't
live photos
create any spurious bleed over.
into life with sound and motion, making every moment feel vibrant and exciting. Why do people either love or hate this new feature already? And while I've still got you, if you happen to miss something on the air, we staff and can't always make it. We appreciate that.
So, with also the smoother tuning, which takes less effort, basically, I just find that the 328 is far more selective than the 219. I found the 219 does work, but it really did make me work for it when I did the video. Conclusions then. What radio would I choose at the end of the day? Now, of course, my opinion is my opinion. It's in no way a professional opinion, is it? I'm a guy in a shed. So this is only what I think, and you might disagree with me, and you're perfectly entitled to. I think design of the radios, I don't know. There's not much to split them, really, is there? Maybe the dial is just that little bit clearer on the 219 because it is a very slightly bigger radio. The switch, the band switch, is definitely better in my opinion than the one on the 328. This does feel a little bit loose to use, and it doesn't always line up with that little window there, whereas this one pretty much spot on. Finish on the radio, this has a sort of metallic black finish, which I rather like actually, and this is a matte, more traditional finish. I don't know if there's really much difference between that. So yeah, I mean, sort of the looks and the feel of the switches and everything, I think they're pretty much the same. They've got the same antenna. What sets this radio apart for me though is the tuning wheel. It's smoother to use, it's less effort. I just found it easier to tune. The DSP isn't quite so snatchy. I did find that this 219, with the very, very firm dial and the DSP being a little bit more kind of precise, really, you really do have to work this dial to get the best out of the radio, and it is, in my opinion, it picks up more interference, more spurious bleed over. I don't know why, because I imagine it's probably got the same tuning chip and everything inside. And then there's the speaker. I definitely think this has got a different speaker in it. I mean, when you listen to the radio side by side, this has just got more resonance. Certainly with music as well on FM, this radio, in my opinion, does sound quite a bit better. Medium wave and shortwave, I don't think there's much between it, to be honest with you. I think the 219 sounds absolutely fine. So, what would I choose? Well, I would actually go for the 328, mainly on the tuning, I think, and the sound. But if I'd not had the 328 and I was given the 219, I would find the tuning a bit of a challenge. But to be honest with you, I'd be quite happy with it for £10. I just think it's amazing. For £10 you can get a 12-band radio that actually works. So there you go. Yeah, my opinion is the 328, but it's a close thing. Let me get these both on camera. Anyway, there you go. Just a quick video, really. Well, I don't suppose it was that quick at the end, but just a video, just doing it in the afternoon. So I hope you're all staying safe. Like I said at the beginning of the video, lots of lurgy and lots of colds around at the moment. Touch wood, I'm absolutely fine as I'm making this video. As always, thanks for your view time. Thanks for checking in. Obviously, there's full reviews on these radios in the channel. If I remember, I'll put them in the description. They'll pop up at the end. But as always, thumbs up from Fred in the Shed. And as always, before you go, just take a second. Could you just hit me a thumbs up below? That really will help me, and it helps the channel. But as for now, as always, thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned for some more videos real soon. Take care, and I'll catch you all on the next one. Cheers, guys.
Fred's in the shed where the magic unfolds. Fred in the shed with his trusty CB. He's a friend to the lonely on a frequency.